You can find the full 2009 interview with Margaret Atwood and her author husband, Graham Gibson, on our website, newmexicoinfocus.org. It's a great interview. Now, we're back at the line table for our final topic this week. It's an out to Wise Pies at the University of New Mexico Arena and a safe for competitive sports in Albuquerque middle schools. After a public outcry when APS announced it would cut back on middle school sports to save money, the district will now look at other ways to make up the $600,000 it would have saved by cutting intramural athletics. Now, and less than a week after UNM asked Wise Pies to give up its naming rights to the pit, pending a new and more lucrative agreement with another company, that company's name was released Wednesday morning. Athletics Director Paul Krebs announced that Dreamstyle Remodeling owner Larry Chavez would be gifting the university $10 million, Daniel, over the next 10 years. Pretty good business, this remodeling business, not bad at all. Let me come back to middle school sports. It looks like we're going to have a chance with, track and field, volleyball and basketball. That leaves out a lot of sports. What's happening here?
I don't think it leaves out a lot of sports. I don't think there were a lot of other middle school sports left. I don't think the APS was playing football.
Baseball?
I don't think they were playing baseball, softball. I think they pretty much brought back almost all the sports that they had.
What do you make of the timing of it? Was this, did the governor prompt this?
No, I think the parents prompted it. I mean, I think there was a pretty big outcry from kids. You know, I mean, look, they've cut physical education. They've cut.
Sorry, I couldn't.
Way to go! I lost my train of thought. Now they cut the. God bless you. They've cut so many extracurricular activities. Now to take away things like the sports from these kids, I don't think it saved that much money. I mean, they weren't paying middle school coaches $25,000 a year. I mean, you know, my kids played in Rio Rancho, and I mean, I don't think there was a uniform that fit a kid. So it's not like they had the newest of anything. So I think they realized they maybe got the cart before the horse in this one.
You know, Marcia, you know, they're saying they're going to offer phys ed, intramural sports with grants, flag football, lunchtime basketball, archery, tennis, soccer, all these other things to do. And that's fine, getting grants to do that kind of thing. But is there a message here about priorities? What's your sense of that?
You know, I think that this has been a really tricky situation. I mean, ultimately, the school district was in this situation or is in this situation because the governor vetoed the budget. I mean, we've got school districts all over the state that they're trying to figure out what type of a gap they have to bridge for this coming school year without knowing, right? And so, I mean, I'm not a parent, but if I were, I would rather them cut extracurricular activities as opposed to making class sizes larger, furloughing teachers, which has also been conversations. People are even talking about making the school weeks 4 days as opposed to 5. It's really hard. I think that it's great that they were able to come back and say, you know, with outside funding like grants and other types of funding that might come in that's not from the state, that they can try to save these types of sports. I think that's wonderful. Sports are great and they are very important. I mean, they teach leadership skills, how to collaborate. That's wonderful.
Thank you for saying that.
But again, we are in this situation because the governor didn't want to govern during the 60-day session.
Are you running for office?
No.
Okay.
Are you backing her?
Oh no, zero chance of that.
It just broke my heart.
Laura, you know, what about? Let's go to staying with middle school sports there. I appreciate the point Marcia just made. It is important for kids' development, isn't it?
Sure.
I mean, but not every kid participates in sports. You know what I mean? So it's kind of sports is being used as a football here. Sorry for the pun, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, not every kid participates, but what we want to see is every kid having the opportunity to participate. And I think part of the problem is that if you cut it from middle schools, then you're turning to club sports, and club sports are, outrageous, expensive for average, middle income folks, let alone low income. It's just impossible for some people. So I think part of it is that you do want to make sure that there's an opportunity for anybody who's interested in it to get involved. But there are other areas that APS hasn't addressed yet on whether they're going to cut or not. Some of the gifted programs they were looking to also downsize, and that's a huge concern for a lot of people. And I'm also not a parent, but I definitely remember how important sports were to me growing up in a small town, and seeing that as an opportunity for a lot of things. But for me, if I were a parent, unfortunately, I would look to, don't cut either the school sizes, the class size, the teachers, the academics, or the sports, but maybe look at some of your administration and why are you so top heavy? So that, unfortunately, would be an area that I think most people look at and say, why?
Was this announcement, in your view, a scud to Santa Fe over the roundhouse, so to speak? This came in response after the governor.
Right.
Do you know
Well,
something
I don't-
Marcia mentioned earlier?
I
Was
don't
this a calculated
necessarily-
move by APS to get to
I
this
mean,
point?
I think, I don't know how much it was
Yeah.
to address Santa Fe so much as to address how many complaints they were getting from parents locally. I mean, they really exploded with a lot of complaints. People were showing up to the board meetings. They were sending in, emails and letters. And there was a huge movement locally. So I don't know if it was so much a shot over the bow to Santa Fe as it was to address really what people were concerned about here.
Mary, we have to give all due respect and props to Larry Chavez. I mean, $1 million a year for 10 years.
Exactly.
That's no small investment. And it's a
That's
local
right.
doing it. It's something to celebrate, it seems to me.
Yes.
The previous cat was local too, so we've got a little thing going here. How did that deal strike you when you first heard about it? Is $10 million for 10 years? Is that a deal for UNM?
It is a deal for UNM. I just do not like the idea of selling naming rights.
Right.
And it's
fraught, as they say.
it just strikes me wrong. I don't like it. I think it's great that he's doing this.
Right.
I mean, and props to him, and he's a UNM grad, et cetera.
Glad you got
I
that
think
in.
it's great. I think that's great that he did that. I just personally, I just don't like it. And I also, it's not 10 million. It's going to be 9 million because we're paying some company in Texas. They're going to get $1 million of that. So it's not 10 million, it's 9 million. And why are we having that Texas company? That's the part that bothers me. We've got very bright lawyers in the UNM counsel's office. Why are we going outside of our state to craft these contracts? So that part.
Well, I think that rests fully. I think there's two. Obviously, Mr. Chavez, both Mr. Chavez's should be thanked for stepping up
Exactly.
and doing this, and both of them were local guys that did this and saw the need to do that. And I think they should both be thanked tremendously. The person that should be called to task is Paul Krebs. I mean, this whole and the other person the other group that should be called to task, I believe, is the Board of Regents. It's clearly time that the Board of Regents makes a change at the University Athletics. I mean, these deals are not being done correctly, whether it's extending coaches' contracts that no one knows about and then we got to pay for later, to naming rights deals that don't make sense. And then the Board of Regents just kind of throws its hands up in the air and they're like, well, we don't know. At some point, someone's going to have to say to the university, the buck stops here. With athletics, I mean, to watch the Larry Barker interview the other night and to hear Paul Krebs say that the reason it was put in and submitted as basketball tournament Ireland, when it was really a golf trip to Scotland, was just an oversight. And the fact that they spent the money that they spent to do that at the same time that they're laying off employees and furloughing people, and the Board of Regents sits around and says, I believe it's risen to the level now that the legislature should be looking to impeach regents if they don't take action with what's happening at the University of New Mexico. and the
Do
athletic
names
department.
on stadiums put more people in seats?
No.
I don't think they put more people in seats, but I think they make the seats more comfortable, right? In this day and age,
Okay.
it's going to be hard with, and this is going to, I'm sure I'm going to get attacked for this from people who call in. In the age of transparency, where it is now, which is a good thing on some levels, and it's bad on other levels. When I was in the legislature, you could come up and everybody could kick in a bunch of money and we could go fix something in New Mexico State or UNM, and no one really caught on. No one really was like, wait, you spent $1 million to do this? Now it's so transparent that everybody's out there that you're not going to get the upgrades, and we don't have the people paying the ticket prices or the money in the legislature to do these facelifts that are needed at these facilities.
Right about a minute, Marcia. I guess same question. Do these things put people in seats, naming rights? No. I mean, I want to support this man, certainly, but is my buying a ticket to a Lobos basketball game supporting this remodeler? Do you know what I mean? Who gets the money here? Like, how does this all work? How does he benefit?
I think aside from just having visibility and having his name out there, I mean, it's not his name that's going to put, the butts in the seats.
Right.
That's really not going to be it. It's going to be
the team.
It's going to be the team.
The Lobos, right.
And of course, it's getting word out there about the games.
But if you're a multi-state business like he is, and he is in the Mountain West states, it's a phenomenal advertising opportunity
Right.
because you're going to have teams. When New Mexico's playing Colorado State, he's got businesses in Colorado. If they're here, his business name is out there.
That's
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, and
Okay.
So it is visibility, but I don't
Great
think that's
move.
putting
Yeah, no, it puts
people
nobody in the.
seats.
It's a great
But here's
business
the thing,
move.
and we're
Yeah.
saying it's very generous, and it is very generous. But the thing is, it is advertising, and it's a tax break. I mean, nobody does this unless they actually are able to get. I mean, this is a 10-year tax break that he can then Our tax code is very generous when it comes to donations to 501c3 institutions and public universities. I mean, this is definitely a business deal.
I just hope to
and
get
for
to the point
anybody
where I
who's a
can give $1 million
businessman,
a year
you
away.
cannot give that kind of money if it's not going to come back to you in some way. And
It's the
advertising
ultimate
is one
marquee
way.
here in Albuquerque. isn't
Absolutely,
The Pit.
it
It's
is.
the ultimate
What's
Well, and it's
billboard.
going to be called the
Yeah.
Pit. That's what I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I totally interrupted you.
That's okay.
Yeah. Is it still going to be called the Pit?
As long as it's not called the
AKA.
Dream Style Remodeling Pit.
Point. You heard it here
No
first. That's all
way.
the time we have. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.